This is the adult poet cardigan, size small. So small and extra small are in the same sizing. So I've got my 27 rows of ribbing, and then I've worked 27 single crochets across the top of the ribbing to form row 1. So we're going to start with row 2. So we chain 1 at the end of every row in turn. I'm going to work 1 half double crochet into the first stitch, and then we're going to work our first bobble cluster. Now, just a note, if you've been working with the mini poet pattern, the mini poet has different stitches on the bobble cluster row. So you'll find that it's a single crochet where I just worked a half double crochet. So just make note of that for the adult one. So in the second stitch, we're going to work out our bobble cluster, which is a double crochet followed by a bobble stitch, so a DC5 together. And this is in the same stitch as we worked our double. So I'm just continuing to work my bobble stitch until I get 6 on my hook. Then I yarn over and pull through all 6. We've still got one more stitch in the same second stitch here, which is a double crochet. So bobble clusters are basically a bobble with a double crochet either side. Alright, so your next 3 stitches will now be half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And you're ready for your next cluster. So clusters are 4 stitches apart, but in between they have 3 half double crochets. So cluster is a double crochet, then a bobble stitch, so a DC5 together, which means you'll end up with 6 on your hook. 5 more than the existing stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then 1 more double crochet into the same stitch. And you're ready to go into 3 half double crochets. Do 1 more cluster for you, and then I'll meet you back at the next row. Cluster is a double crochet into the next stitch, a bobble stitch, or a popcorn if some people like to call it that, into the same stitch. So I'm still working my bobble till I get 6 on the hook, pull through, and 1 more double. So these clusters are designed to be wider and puffier than your average bobble. Once you get the hang of it, you'll love them. But I'll continue on with 3 half doubles, bobble cluster, 3 half doubles along to the end. So I finished round 2. You can see my clusters along. I've ended with 1 half double crochet, which is written in the pattern for the size small, extra small. So I'm now going to show you how to decrease on your next row. Because we've created these wider bobble clusters with extra stitches, we then need to compensate by decreasing across this row, but we also need to increase 1 at each end for the sleeve growth. So that's where the complicating bit perhaps comes in, but once you get a feel for each rule of the sleeves, you'll be able to grasp it. So I'm going to chain 1, I'm on to row 3. So I need to work, because for the small, I'm working small only. I'm working 2 half double crochets, and then I'm going to decrease here to compensate for the extra stitches. So I'm going to do a half double crochet 2 together. So cinch these 2 in, And then over the remaining bobble clusters, I'm going to actually decrease twice. The reason I only decreased once on the end here was because I actually need to allow for one increase. On the other end, I'll also only decrease once. Okay, 2 decreases over every cluster, except for the end 2, where I'll only decrease once to allow for the increase. Okay, if that doesn't make sense, just move on with grasping these basic rules. So I've decreased over my cluster, and now I've got room for 2 half double crochets. As a rule, you'll work 2 half doubles between each cluster for the decrease row, okay? Remembering that for the actual cluster row, you work 3. All right, now I'm going to work my 2 decreases. So 1 half double crochet 2 together, and my next half double 2 together. So I've decreased twice, and I've really drawn in the cluster so that it pops out some more. Then I'm ready for 2 half double crochets in between. Okay, and then you're ready for your next. So you can see at the start of every cluster, you begin your decrease, draw these 2 together, and then you draw the top and the next one here together, and then you've got room for 2 half doubles. Okay, so I'm decreasing 1, 2, my cluster pops out nicely, and then I'm working 1 and 2 plain old half double crochets. Ready for my next decrease. So I'm decreasing these 2 together, and then these 2. Because in the previous row, I've worked 3 stitches into the 1 stitch. I need to then decrease twice to get rid of the 2 extra stitches, if that makes sense. So here's my 1 decrease and second decrease, followed by 2 half double crochets in between, and up to my next decrease. So I'll leave you here. I'm going to do decrease, decrease, half double, decrease, decrease, half double, decrease, decrease, and then in the stitches remaining, I then work half double crochets, ready for my next row.